Welcome to the Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss podcast, where Dr. Steve Hewlett, my husband, and a doctor of pharmacy for over 30 years, is here to help you lose weight and live a fuller and healthier life. He can take decades of medical science and put it into simple terms that anyone can follow. Let's jump in with Dr. Steve Hewlett.
Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. And today's episode, I want to just break down the term man-made food because I use the term man-made food in probably almost every one of my podcasts. And so I've been told that some people are confused on what that means. So today, that's what this is. I'm going to break it down because what I say is that all man-made food is made of three main things. It's made of sugar. It's made of sugar and high fructose corn syrup. It's made of ultra processed grains, and it's also made of vegetable and seed oils. So that's what I want to explain. When I talk about man-made food, I'm talking about the stuff that has come about that comes from the food manufacturers that has an ingredient label on it that tells you all the different chemicals that they've made this food out of, which means they're not making it out of natural things. And even if they do make it out of natural fruits, natural vegetables, they add so many chemicals to it that it just totally obliterates any kind of nutrition you're going to get from it. So the first thing, I want to break each one of these down. And remember, as I go through these, remember the three pillars of sickness. When you have these three things, you are wide open to organ damage of every single organ in your body. And that is when you have high glucose levels, high insulin levels, and inflammation in the body. And just so you know, the inflammation in the body and high insulin levels, that comes way like decades before you actually start seeing your blood glucose rise, because your body is so efficient. It knows how much blood glucose you have, and it keeps pumping out enough insulin just to keep that down because it does not want a high blood glucose. So your insulin levels, what used to only take a little bit, maybe 3 units per mil of insulin in your body, now it's taking up around 20, 25, 30 units of insulin just to keep your glucose level, because we eat glucose all the time and it's toxic. And that's the deal. On a lot of this stuff, if you went and you ate a bunch of sugar and 1 hour later you're dead, everybody would know not to eat sugar. That's poison. But since we take this and it slowly poisons our body over decades of time, it's so slow, nobody even thinks about it. It's the silent killer. And there are ways of measuring it. And the way to measure it is to measure insulin levels, not glucose levels. If that's all you're doing is measuring your blood glucose levels or measuring your A1C, you are way behind the game, because that is what happens after decades of keeping your insulin levels high. So that's why all this is important, because as I go through each of these ingredients, you're going to see how it affects your glucose levels, how it affects your inflammation in your body, and how it affects your insulin levels. So let's start with the first ingredient. The first ingredient we say is sugar. The reason why sugar is so bad, the difference between sugar and, let's say, rice, okay? Rice is made out of glucose. All plants have the basic building block of glucose. So anytime you put something in your mouth that is not animal-based, doesn't come from an animal, isn't an animal itself, isn't an animal organ, anytime you have something that's not from an animal, it's either from a plant or it's just a bunch of chemicals like the man-made food. So the difference, rice is pure glucose. Basically, that's when your body breaks it down, that's basically what you're getting is pure glucose. To where when you have sugar or high fructose corn syrup, you're not only are you getting the glucose, but you're getting fructose, because the sugar that we eat, that you think of, a teaspoon of sugar, is actually called sucrose. It's a combination of glucose and fructose. So it's a double whammy. Glucose normally would be fine if you ate the way we used to do back in the 1960s and before, but it's extremely toxic when you eat it the way we've been eating it since the food manufacturers have been putting it in every single thing that they make. So glucose is around, our body knows how to use it, but we are giving it way more than our body can handle. And I'll explain that here in just a little bit. The fructose, on the other hand, is toxic. It's poison. Our body does not like fructose. It doesn't know what to do with fructose. And so it sends it straight to the liver for the liver to try to get rid of. Okay. The only time that we used to eat fructose in nature was in fruits, but we did not eat fruits every day of the year. We didn't eat it every month of the year. If you eat it seasonally, if you only eat the fruits when the fruits are being actually grown, that's going to be the healthiest way to eat these. But if you're eating strawberries in December, those have been manipulated. And just so you know, almost every fruit and vegetable in our grocery stores have been manipulated. They've been genetically modified. They try to make them where they stay ripe for longer. They try to put coatings on it, like there's a peel, to try to help make it look pretty so you'll buy it more. And it's all chemicals. Everything is chemicals. Strawberries today and strawberries back in the 50s, two totally different things. Apples, two totally different things. Bananas, everything is two totally different things because we've genetically modified these to be bigger, sweeter, more addictive to eat. And we've laced them with all kinds of chemicals. So fructose is bad. No matter what you hear, it's a lie. The drug companies or the food companies try to tell you that fructose is okay because it does not raise your insulin levels. That is true. It also tells you that it's okay because it doesn't raise your glucose. Well, duh, it's fructose, not glucose. Just like when you eat glucose, it doesn't raise your fructose levels. So the arguments are ridiculous. The fact is, when fructose goes to your liver to be metabolized, it gets metabolized into different things. First, let's talk about sugar real quick. The minimum daily requirement. Okay. So we have these minimum daily requirements that there are certain things that we have to eat, like essential fatty acids. We have a minimum daily requirement that we should be getting in of our omega-3s. And also we have daily minimum requirements on our vitamins and our minerals and our protein. So we need protein, we need fat, we need vitamins, we need minerals. The minimum daily requirement, what your body has to have every single day of glucose, the minimum daily requirement is zero. Zero. It's actually been stated finally now in the quote unquote scientific literature that we actually do not ever have to put a piece of glucose in our mouth and our bodies run perfectly fine, which the nutrition science has known this for a long time. It just takes a while to get this out to everybody. So remember, the minimum daily requirement is zero. Back in 1965, the amount of sugar that we ate was about 2 teaspoons of sugar per person per day. Okay, that's what we had. Now, what's happened is in 2015, they looked at it, and that number went from 2 teaspoons per person per day up to 65 teaspoons per person per day. That's how much we are actually eating every single day because of all the sugar that they put in all this man-made food. And it's not hard. You can go to the sugar industry, find out how much sugar they're sending to the food manufacturer and find out how many people there are. So it's not really hard to figure all this out on an average. But when you go from 2 teaspoons of sugar a day, which is about what our body, if you look at all the glucose in our body, in our bloodstream, if you look at all the glucose in our bloodstream, it comes out to about 2 teaspoons of sugar. So that used to be what we replaced. Now we're doing 65 teaspoons of sugar. Our blood only has about 2 teaspoons of sugar in it. So all that excess, besides what gets stored, and there's very small storage of glucose in our bodies, but all the rest of that raises your insulin levels, goes to the liver. The insulin causes all that glucose to be turned straight into triglycerides, into fat, and then it forces that fat to be stored in your fat cells. The fact is, we have trillions of fat cells all over our body. So this takes time. As you keep making fat out of all this glucose that you eat, and it keeps stuffing your cell, as soon as one cell gets stuffed, it's going to go to the next one. When you have a stuffed fat cell, that is insulin resistance. You can't put any more glucose in it. No matter how much insulin you give, you can't stuff any more in that fat cell. So it just goes to another fat cell and starts filling that up. So depending on how many fat cells you have, it's going to take a long time to finally stuff all your fat cells. Once those are all stuffed, then your body's going to start stuffing all this fat around your organs. When all this happens, now you have these stuffed fat cells, so insulin doesn't work on them anymore. So now you go to the doctor, and now finally your blood glucose levels are going up. That's what I was saying. You're way late in the game. If you're finding that you have a high A1C or your blood glucose levels are going up, you're way behind the game because now you've already stuffed all the fat cells that you have. Basically, that's the way you can look at this. So That's what we do. We are poisoning ourselves with sugar from 2 teaspoons per person per day, all the way up to 65 teaspoons per person per day. And that was in 2015. Now we're talking 10 years later. I can't even imagine what it is right now. So that's something to be aware of. Now, going back to the fructose portion of the sugar and high fructose corn syrup. Fructose, like I said, it goes to the liver to get metabolized. One of the things that gets metabolized in is uric acid. And I've done a whole podcast on this called podcast number 6, called What is Fructose and Why is it Poison? Okay, that's episode number 6. But basically, fructose gets metabolized. Your body's trying to get rid of it. Your cells don't use it, nothing uses, so you just goes to the liver and gets metabolized. One of the things that gets metabolized in is uric acid. And a lot of people know that uric acid causes gout. And there are lots of people who have realized this, that've been on gouty medications for years, decades. And all of a sudden they realize this, they quit eating anything with fructose in it. So no sugar, no high fructose corn syrup. They quit eating that stuff and no fruits. And suddenly all their gout goes away. And I have a personal friend, I even talked about him in my book, and that's exactly what happened with him as well. And he's not the only one, but he'd been on gout medication for a long period of time. If I remember right, it was for over 10 years. It made him sick. He hated the medication, but he hated the pain. He started changing where he doesn't eat fructose anymore. And now he's on no more medications, no more pain. Everything's good. Okay. So that's one thing. But uric acid, the other thing that it does is your body actually produces, the lining of your blood vessels actually produces a chemical that causes your blood vessels to dilate, which is good. So if you have high blood pressure and you have this substance called nitric oxide that your blood vessels release, that causes your blood vessels to dilate. And so it decreases your pressure. So it's an automatic, your body built antihypertensive. Your body already makes it. It's called nitric oxide. The problem is when you eat all this sugar with all this fructose blocks nitric oxide. So that's just one of the mechanisms that when you eat sugar and high fructose corn syrup, you're actually increasing your blood pressure. You're causing hypertension because you're blocking the one chemical that our body makes to keep our blood pressure down. So that's one thing, okay? The other thing fructose gets metabolized into is inflammatory mediators. It gets metabolized into these chemicals that cause an inflammatory response in your body. So just the fact that you're eating fructose, you're actually putting inflammation into your body. That's one way you put inflammation in there. So again, we've talked about the 3 pillars of sickness: glucose, insulin, and inflammation. Right here, fructose. That's going to be your inflammation and your uric acid and all the other things. Then the glucose portion of it, that's going to increase your glucose, blood glucose, which also increases your insulin. So these things increase all 3 things that we're talking about as far as the pillars of sickness: high insulin, high glucose, and inflammation in the body. So that's what you don't want. You don't want, okay, then now the next thing that goes into when you have fructose, the other big thing that fructose gets converted into is fat. The majority of all the fructose that you eat gets converted straight into triglycerides to be stored in your fat cells. So anytime you eat sugar, anytime you eat high fructose corn syrup, you feel that taste in your mouth, just remember that's poison. You are tasting taste of poison, like battery acid, only it doesn't kill you as soon. But for all these reasons, it is killing you. And if you're eating this stuff, you really need to stop, especially if you are obese, if you are sick, if you're type 2 diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, if you have gout, any of these things, you need to be really stop your sugar intake and definitely stop drinking your sugar. That's a worse way you could do it. But so that's what happens. Now you have the fat cells. So you have all this fructose and all this excess glucose. So both of those, the liver is actually turning both of those straight into fat and storing them. And it can't burn your fat out of your fat cells because you're keeping your insulin levels high because you're putting glucose in your blood. So all you can do is store all this fat first in your subcutaneous tissue, and then it starts storing around your organs. And that's when you start having all the damage that you have. So one thing to remember, okay, and all the people who are saying sugar's not bad, it's fine, all the food companies, because they're telling you sugar is perfectly fine for you, you can have all you want. What think about this. They're telling you, don't worry, you're going to burn this off for energy. You're going to burn all this glucose off that you take. There's no way you're going to burn off all this energy of all this glucose that you're taking in. Your body will not handle it. If you take all your stores, all the stores of glucose in your body, and look at how many calories there is in all the stores, all you have is about 2,400, 2,500 calories of stored glucose, 2,500 calories of stored glucose. That's all you have. That's the amount to give you enough energy to lay in your bed and sleep for 24 hours. Your basal metabolism will burn up about that much. So any extra exercise that you're going and you're doing, okay, you're not even going to have enough glucose in your body. God didn't even made us with enough glucose stores. You're going to have to eat that from the outside. And that's the problem. And that's what food manufacturers wanted you to do. When you get hungry, reach for some more glucose. Every time you get hungry, reach for more glucose. Their profits go out the roof and your health just plummets. But that's not their concern, because there's drug companies who can give you meds for that. That's what's going on. And so all your glucose stores, okay, you have got 2,400 calories. 1 pound of fat has 4,000 calories. You have more calories in 1 pound of fat that is healthy fat that's in the subcu tissue, as long as you don't have too much. But as long as you're filling your fat cells and then burn the energy, and filling your fat cells and burn the energy out, burning the energy out of it, that's fine. That's what we're supposed to do. But we're eating so much, we're stuffing so much, we're stuffing it around all our organs, we're in all our fat tissue, it's everywhere. This is crazy. So you are not eating glucose for the energy. You're not going to burn up the glucose. A big, hard exercise program with weightlifting for an hour is going to burn about 800 calories. So you are not burning off any excess calories that you're eating from this sugar. You are storing all of it as fat. And that's very important to know. Okay, so that's the glucose fructose part. The next part is the ultra processed grains. And remember, this is when they take these, they're getting their grains mainly from wheat. Okay, wheat and soy. That's the main crops that they have. Wheat, corn, and soy. That's where most of the money from our government goes to those food products, because those food products are what the man-made food companies are making all their products out of. But it is horrible what they're making. This isn't, if it was just nice fields of wheat that are well nourished in the ground and all, that'd be one thing, but that's not what goes on. This is called monocropping. They'll take a whole fields of, say, wheat, and that's all they grow. And then they'll come through and they crop dust it. They'll fly a plane and put all these chemicals on it, because they're going to spray it with pesticides and insecticides and herbicides and fungicides. All this, and a lot of it is this glyphosate, which everybody's hearing more about. That's what's in Roundup. That is crop dusted all over our crops. So now you have all these chemicals. They go and they harvest the crop. The crops, they die. They go down into the nutrients. You have all these chemicals from where it's been crop dusted. And now you're growing another bunch of wheat for the next year. But there's no more the nutrients that were in the ground that you get when you do regenerative farming, when you actually farm your farms by actual farmers. Then they know how to put nutrients back in the ground and use the normal life cycles to nourish the ground, so you get more nourishment in the plants. That's not what we do. We go through and we genetically modify the wheat, so we get a lot more wheat in a shorter period of time. This wheat has nowhere near the nutrients that we had. The wheat that we had back in the 1940s, 1950s, and the wheat now, they are nowhere even similar to each other. It's the same thing with the corn. Corn's been modified so much to make it basically, it's just little chunks of sugar is what it is. That's what genetically modified. They actually take different things to make our fruit bigger, sweeter, prettier. They make it to try to get more grains of wheat out, so we can make more of this man-made product. Everything is genetically modified, and it's more chemicals, and it's tearing our body up, because our bodies are now, we're putting all this unnatural stuff into our body. That's what you have to worry about with the ultra processed grains. That's just one of the things that you have to worry about. The other thing is seeds. Just so you know, a seed, we talk about things like grains, nuts, legumes. All those kind of are seeds, okay? A grain means there's no shell. It's a seed. Picture the wheat, top of wheat, and where animals can come and eat the wheat and then fly off and poop and drop the seeds, and they can grow there. Or the wind can blow the seeds and they blow through the air, okay? That is a grain. A nut is when you have one seed and one shell. So that'd be your walnuts, pecans, almonds, all those. Those are nuts. If you have more than one seed in one shell, that's a legume. So things like beans, peas, lentils, peanuts, those are all legumes. And legume just basically means multiple seeds in one shell. So there's different ones. But anyway, that's just clarification. That's really just a side note. So now back to the ultra processed grains. What happens with these is they take these grains, and they used to, back when we used to make bread a long time ago, they would take these grains and they would grind them on these real rough rocks. So you're grinding the grain down, but you still have a lot of fiber that's in there. You still had a lot of phytonutrients that were in there. And so they would make the bread with that. But that's not what we do anymore. Now we pulverize these with machines. We grind these down. We get rid of all the fiber, get rid of all the nutrients, and all we're left is powdered flour, which is powdered glucose. It's solid glucose. That's what that is. And when they say vitamin fortified, that's because they take all the nutrients out of all the processing, all the nutrients, and then they go back and they add some. They may add B12, or they may add calcium or something, some little nutrient nowhere near the nutrients that we used to get. And then they pat themselves on the back. This is all fortified with vitamins. It's a scam. It's a lie. It's marketing ploy is all that is. It is not fortified. This stuff is toxic. And all it is flat out glucose. So that's what you need. That's why they say avoid flour and avoid sugar. Both of those are made of solid glucose. And as you've already seen, we are poisoning ourselves with glucose every single day. All the cookies, crackers, brownies, pastas, breads, fast food restaurants, everything. We are inundating ourselves with this toxic chemical, and our bodies are starting to show it. As you look around, and you can see what it's doing to everybody. So that's why we want to talk about these ultra processed grains. That means they process them so much that there is nothing in there except glucose. And so they add just a little bit of vitamins. Sometimes they'll do that. Now, let's go to the next one, vegetables and seed oils. Okay. These vegetable seed oils. So remember, just the seeds themselves had the pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, all the glyphosate. They had those chemicals. Now when you talk about the vegetable and seed oils, same thing. It's the same grains. It's the same grains. So now they're taking all these seeds, they're taking all these grains, which this is unnatural. Okay. What we do with these vegetables and getting oils out of vegetables, that is unnatural. That goes against God. That goes against nature, goes against everything. That's why vegetable oils, when they first came out, all vegetable oils were only used in machinery. It was only used for the machines, the farming equipment and everything, just to keep that metal from getting hot and binding with each other. So they use these vegetable oils to keep that lubricated. Then I've already talked about where that came from in another podcast. But then all of a sudden, now they decide, hey, we can make a lot of money by making these cheap oils and just feeding them to people. And that's what they did. So again, remember the three pillars: glucose, insulin, and inflammation. Ultra processed grains that we just talked about, that has everything. It's seeds, so it's all made of glucose. Since you're eating all these seeds and all these grains, that's increased your glucose levels. So now your insulin levels are high, and it's extremely inflammatory to your body because of all the pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides. Okay, so all three pillars are hit with glucose and fructose. All three pillars were hit with the ultra processed grains. Now the vegetable and seed oils. Once they take these seed oils, what they do is they take, or these seeds, they take them to the processing plant, and they take these seeds, they subject them to high pressures, high temperatures, petrochemical solvents, okay, bleaching agents, and deodorizers. They have to do deodorizers because this stuff stinks so bad with all the chemicals that they're putting on it, trying to get all this oil out of these seeds, which is crazy, unnatural, and toxic. So they're trying to get all these oils out of these seeds. And it stinks so bad that the people who work on the line, they have to wear respirators because it stinks so bad. That's why they have to add these deodorizers. And that's what they're telling us is healthy and we should be eating. It's crazy. So all of these chemicals, all of these things, the bleaching agents, the petrochemicals, the deodorizers, pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, so many chemicals are going into every single little chip cookie thing that you are eating. Okay. And every one of those chemicals is foreign to our body. Our body doesn't know what these things are. It's never seen glyphosate before. It's never seen this stuff. So it mounts up an immune response. That's the inflammatory response. Normally, inflammation is good because that's where if you get a thorn in your body or a splinter, or you get pneumonia, if you get sick, anything like that, where your body needs to heal itself, you want the inflammatory response. That's your army. That is good. That's good for acute inflammation, things like pneumonia or broken bone or a thorn. That's acute. That means it just happened. You get over it and you go on with your life. Chronic inflammation is what's absolutely horrible. And that's when you eat all these chemicals all day long, all throughout every single day of your life. That's when you're bombarding your body, and that's when it has chronic inflammation, and that is horrible for your body. When you have inflammation, that's a response that you have under stress, just like being stressed out, just like anxiety. All that stress in your body, it does horrible things to your body. That's why stress management is so important in all this also. So that's the deal. You have all these chemicals that are wreaking havoc in there. And when you do it daily, you never give your body a rest. Okay, that's one thing. So they're highly inflammatory because of all the chemicals and everything they put in there. However, there's another reason why these vegetable and seed oils, and these are seed oils. Yeah, they're vegetables because they come from plant, but they just call it vegetable oils because they've gone and convinced everybody that vegetables and fruits are very healthy for you. And so this is a vegetable oil, so it must be healthy. It's a lie. It's a marketing ploy. It's a cover up. These are seed oils, and they are unnatural, and they're chemical laden, and they're causing inflammation in our bodies. So the other reason these are inflammatory is we've talked in the past about omega-6s and omega-3s. Those are our two essential fatty acids. Our bodies don't make them. We have to get them from what we eat. The problem is omega-6 fatty acids go in and they get converted to what's called inflammatory prostaglandins. They basically make our inflammatory system. Okay. And that's good because we need that for acute inflammation. Then there's omega-3s. The omega-3s go to make anti-inflammatory prostaglandins. So they balance each other out. And you really don't need that many omega-3s, the anti-inflammatory, because we use more inflammatory because of our body trying to take care of itself. However, a good ratio of omega-6, which is the inflammatory, to the omega-3, which is the anti-inflammatory, is about a 3-to-1 or 7-to-1. So you could have 3 to 7 times the amount of omega-6 than you do omega-3 when you eat, and you're still going to be fine, just about fine. And that's what you get if you have a grass-fed, grass-finished beef. That's going to have an omega-3 or omega-6 to omega-3 of about 3-to-1. It's really good. But even if you have a grass-fed, grain-finished beef, that's still going to be an omega-3 or omega-6 to omega-3 of about 7-to-1. So 7 omega-6 inflammatory to 1 omega-3 anti-inflammatory. However, when you look at these seed oils, after these go through all this process and all these chemicals, and then they test these seed oils, some of these seed oils, they all have a huge amount of omega-6. They are mainly omega-6, but some of them are up to 50-to-1 or even more. So we're at 50 times the omega-6 than we do the omega-3. So just that another reason why we are putting so much inflammation in our body. We have so much omega-6 floating in our body, and we don't have very many omega-3s. So that really throws us off. The omega-3s, like I said, the best way to get that is animal fat. The animal fat, that's even if it's been grass-fed, grain finished, that is still going to be a lot better than anything else. But you can also get omega-3s from other places, like fish oil, certain fish, albacore tuna, and things like that. And I've done podcasts on these too, but omega-3s is what you really want to get rid of or get increased, but not just your omega-3s. You need to decrease your omega-6s, which means stay far away from these seed oils. And when I talk about seed oils, I'm talking about things like sunflower oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, canola oil, Crisco, all those in a plastic bottle that you see on the grocery store shelves. Those are all seed oils. Those are all toxic. And they've convinced everybody to cook with these. It's absolutely ridiculous. But it keeps their cells going. So that is kind of basically about it. That's what I really wanted you to know. So again, now let's look at vegetable and seed oils and our 3 pillars: high glucose, high insulin, inflammation. We already said All these are made out of seeds, which is a plant-based food, which means you're increasing your glucose. So anytime you eat this, your glucose is going to go up. When your glucose goes up, your insulin goes up. Now you have, not only do you have all these chemicals that they're putting in there, all these pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, bleaching agent, deodorizers, petrochemical solvents. Not only do you have all those chemicals in here, but now our body has to figure out what to do with it. So you've got these chemicals. So again, glucose, insulin, inflammation, all three of these ingredients in man-made food increase all those. They increase your glucose, increase your insulin, and put inflammation all throughout your body. And besides all these, so we've already talked about these chemicals, but they decide that they don't have enough chemicals in that food. Everything in a box, bottle, bag, and can, the middle aisles of the grocery store, that's what we're talking about. Anything with an ingredient label, they don't have enough chemicals in there yet. So now what do? Now they go in and they start throwing in artificial colors, which now you're seeing all over the news how much these artificial colors have caused serious damage, serious mental issues, hyperactivity, all kinds of things in kids, in adults. We are reacting to these artificial colors. They are not just little things to make it look pretty. They are chemicals that our body does not like. So now we have artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners. And if you ever see the term proprietary blend, that means they don't have to tell anybody what's in it. They don't have to. They can have any chemical they want to, and nobody knows anything about this because this is not regulated. Okay. The food companies regulate themselves because the FDA said that's too big of a burden for them to try to do. So if that's not the hen in charge of the hen house, it's crazy. And besides that, then they also put things like maltodextrin in it. So what you're eating when you eat this, if you haven't realized, is sugar. It's chemicals. And it's ultra processed grains that all of these increase all three of the columns of ill health, of sickness, of death, of organ damage: high glucose, high insulin, and inflammation. That is why when we talk about man-made food, this is no little thing. We are killing ourselves. And just the fact that we don't die immediately after we eat it is why everybody keeps on eating it. And then you look around and you see everybody's eating it. It can't be that bad. Look, everybody's eating it. It is that bad. And look, everybody's eating it. A lot of these people, I don't know how old you guys are. I don't know how young you are. I'm 63. I was born back in 1962. When we used to go to the beach back then, and you look, and I know it's all over the internet, but it's true. When we went to the beach back then, when we were in high school back then, you did not see obese people. It was so rare. I could tell you exactly who our obese people were in my graduating class. And I hate to say this, but they are all dead now. But they are. This is no little thing. And since you didn't live back then, now you just look around and think this is what everybody is. Must be genetic. Everybody's doing this. I look okay. That's fine if you're obese. You should love yourself anyway. Guys, this isn't about looks. Of course you should love yourself. But as I've said, if you truly love yourself, you're going to quit putting toxins in your body. Switch that for real nutrients that your body uses. We are made out of protein. We are made out of fat. We are made out of vitamins, minerals, and water. That's what we are made out of. We are not made out of carbohydrates. We're not made out of glucose. So it is absolutely beyond my comprehension to think that our body's made up of protein and fat, and we're telling everybody they should eat all glucose and stay away from protein and fat. Stay away from animal meat. It's going to kill you. It's a lie. It's marketing. And don't fall for it, because you're not just going to be paying for it with your food. Okay. And everybody says it's so expensive to eat healthy. That's just an excuse people want to use because they don't want to eat healthy. It's just an excuse. When you eat healthy, you can eat one meal a day. The way we eat one meal a day, maybe two meals a day. We get our buy beef straight from the farmer, and we can have steaks, we can have ribeye steaks, we can have everything for an average about $6 a pound when we buy it from a local farmer. And then we only eat once or twice a day. So we're not spending all our money on all this soda pop, crackers, cookies, pizzas, frozen foods, going out to eat all the time, running through drive-throughs. When you save all that money, and you save money on medications that you're taking because of that food, and doctor's visits because of that food, and hospitalization because of that food, add that all up with all the other stuff that you buy all throughout the day, And you're going to find that, oh my gosh, that really was just an excuse. I can eat a lot cheaper and a lot healthier when I eat the way God meant for us to eat. Eat God-made food, real fruits, real vegetables, real animal meat, all the products that come from animals. And when you eat your fruits and vegetables, eat them seasonally. Do not eat them all throughout the year. If they're not growing, don't eat them. And be careful with your fruits and vegetables from the grocery store, because those are chemical laden also. They've done the studies, strawberries, things like that. There is glyphosate all over the inside of those. So you can't just wash this stuff off. Okay. It's in the food. So just please be aware. Please be aware of what you're eating. Our body doesn't need toxins. Our body needs nutrients. It needs protein, fat, vitamins, and minerals. And when you give your body the nutrients that your body needs, I guarantee you are going to feel absolutely fantastic. And when you're eating correctly and you quit putting glucose in your mouth, you'll keep your insulin levels low, which forces your body to burn your own fat. So yes, when you eat healthy, you will eat your own fat, but you're eating protein. So you're not going to be eating your muscles, because all these people that go on these liquid diets and these taking these medications that makes it where they're not hungry anymore, all they're doing is starving themselves. So since they're not giving themselves nutrients, their body starts eating itself from the inside out. So yes, it starts eating the fat away, but yes, it also starts eating all their muscle away, because it needs the amino acids. It needs that protein to heal and to keep their vital organs extremely healthy. So that's why a lot of people lose weight, especially at first, because their body's eating itself. It's eating its fat, which our bodies are supposed to eat its own fat. Eating our fat, eating our muscles. We're not getting the vitamins and minerals. So we're feeling horrible. And that's why diets never work. You have to change everything. You have to change your thoughts. You have to change the food that you eat and the food that you don't eat, or the frankenfood. That's why I call it frankenfood. This isn't food. This is just little pieces that have been put together. That's why I call man-made food frankenfood. So anyway, I just want you to realize that if you want to get healthier, you really do, you need to stick more toward animal-based foods. Stay away from all these ultra-processed grains, all this man-made food. It is absolute toxins. So that's all I have. And I know this is very confusing. So just if you are curious, we have, my wife and I, besides the book and the podcast, we also have a weekly newsletter that comes out every Thursday. It's free. If you want that, you can click on the link below. And we also have come up with some video courses that you can take. They're different price ranges, different information. So if you want our courses, you can go to our website, Dr. Steve Hewlett, that's HUGHLETT.com. You can get the courses on the website, or or sign up for a discovery call or a weight loss solutions chat. And we'll just talk a real quick 15 minutes. You and I will talk together and just see if one of the courses that we have can help you get over this sickness that everybody has right now. And if not, then we don't. It's whatever you want to do. No pressure whatsoever. We just want to help. And if you need our help, we're going to be here for you. So that's all I've got for now. Thanks again for listening. Have a wonderful week. And as always, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below and be sure to tell someone else who may want to change their health path as well. And remember, if you would like to enroll in our new online Thrive Naturally Transformation course to help you reach your new improved health goal, to reverse type 2 diabetes, feel great, and get off medications, we are here to help. Just go to our website, drstevehewlett.com, and click on the Work With Us tab at the top of the page. We truly are here to help you get off medications and start living the vibrant, pain-free life that you would love to live.